This is a terrifying story from my childhood. It was 3 a.m. My name is Kyle. I was 7 years old and sleeping in my bed when I heard someone or something start pounding on my bedroom door. Something inhuman, guttural screams of rage as it pounded on the door. The doorknob rattled, but never turned. I remember shoving my covers over my head and screaming for my mom. Then, just as suddenly as it started, it stopped. In the morning after, of course, not sleeping at all, I told my mom about what happened. She said it was just a nightmare and that there was nothing to be afraid of. But later that day, when she left to go to the grocery store, something happened again. That sound, that terrible sound, started pounding on my door again, and this time I got even more scared because my mom wasn't there. I started crying and screaming for help, but no one came. Just as the doorknob began to turn, I forced myself to stop screaming, and I listened. Whoever or whatever was out there stopped. It waited for a moment, then started scratching at my door. First light taps, then harder taps, then full-on gouging out of the wood. I don't want to describe in detail what those scratches looked like, because they were so disturbing. It was clear that whatever was out there wanted to get in. When my mom returned home, she fell to her knees when she saw the state of my door. I explained what had happened. I could see the terror in her eyes as she realized that whatever that thing was, it was still out there. I remember her taking me into her arms and whispering that everything would be okay. She was obviously shaken by what had happened, but she didn't seem frightened. But I knew she was scared. I could tell by the way she kept glancing over her shoulder and by the way she slept with the lights on that night. Over the next few weeks, every time my mom left the house, that scratching started again. Sometimes it would only take 15 minutes before it started. It always happened at night, though, never during the day. And my mom always came home right after it stopped. So we never caught whoever or whatever it was doing this in the act. It was very difficult for my mom. She couldn't leave the house. She missed work and eventually lost her job. I know she felt helpless, but she never let it show in front of me. She was the strongest person I knew, and I never wanted to see her like that. So I made a plan. I was going to catch that thing in the act. My mom called my dad, who was in the army at the time, and told him what was happening. He tried to come home, but he was overseas, and it took too long for him to get back. So my mom decided I needed to stay with my aunt until my dad got back. But I refused to leave my mom. I remember hugging her and begging her not to let me go. She held me tight and said that she understood, but that I had to go. There was nothing she could do to protect me there. As soon as my aunt and I arrived at her house, that scratching started again. Aunt was really scared. I knew she thought I was making it up. I was devastated. No one believed me. When I got back home, my mom had a big talk with my dad over the phone and then hung up. She went to the kitchen and started praying. This was unusual. My mom didn't pray much. After she finished, she packed a bag for me and said we were going away for a few days. I remember thinking that she finally believed me and was going to protect me. I felt so much better after she told me we were leaving. We drove for hours until we reached a small town. We rented a house and stayed there for a week. Every night, my mom prayed. I don't remember if the scratching followed us, but I think it did. And I remember lying in bed watching the door, waiting for it to happen. After a week, we went home. And to my surprise, the house looked different. My dad was there and 2 other men I didn't know. They were both in suits. One of them introduced himself as Father Patrick. He was a priest. My dad told me he'd gotten him and another priest to help us because he knew we were having problems. I didn't want to admit it, but I knew the priests were there because of the scratching. I also knew they didn't know how bad things really were. I remember Father Patrick asking me if I wanted to say a prayer together. I agreed, hoping that if I showed him, he'd understand. But as soon as we started, the scratching began. I ran to the window and watched the priests scramble to get out of their cars. They huddled together and whispered. They looked back at the house and shook their heads. Father Patrick walked up to me and put his hand on my shoulder. He said he knew I wasn't making any of this up. I felt some of the tension leave my body. Finally, someone believed me. He spent a lot of time with us that day, talking to me, my dad, and my mom separately. Later that night, my dad and the other priests were with me while my mom went out to get food. I remember listening at the door as they talked. I could hear my dad's voice getting louder and angrier. The priest was trying to calm him down. I heard my dad scream, "What are you saying? How can this be possible?" Then silence. The next day, Father Patrick told me he wanted to talk to me again. He took me to my old room, which had been cleaned up. All the scratches were gone. It looked normal again. He sat me down and asked why I hated my baby brother so much. I was confused. "I don't hate him," I said. "Why would you ask that?" He leaned forward and said, "You have a darkness inside you. You feed it with your anger. The more you feed it, the stronger it gets." I knew what he meant. "But I don't control it," I protested. "It controls me." He nodded slowly. "Yes, that's right. Whatever you call it, it's real. And it's attached to you because you have a gift. It uses your feelings to grow. The more you feel those feelings, the more power it has over you." He paused. "Do you want to be free?" I nodded vigorously. "Then you must cleanse yourself and cast out the darkness. You must face the thing that terrifies you and conquer it." I wanted to do it. I was tired of being scared. He taught me a prayer and told me to use it as a weapon against the darkness. When my mom and dad entered the room, Father Patrick explained everything to them. He told them I had an attachment that used my fear and anger to grow, but I didn't have to fight it alone. That evening, my dad cradled me in his arms and repeated a prayer with me. My mom stood beside us, holding my baby brother, Bill. As I gazed at my little brother, I realized that I didn't hate him at all. In fact, I loved him. I was glad he was my brother. I knew my dad could protect me. And now I had the most powerful weapon of all, love. That night was the worst night of my life, but it was also the best. I remember the scratching on my door. I remember screaming as loud as I could, as if fighting back. I remember feeling the darkness growing stronger, as if pulling me under. But then I remembered my new prayer. I struggled to focus on the words, and then I felt something change. The darkness began to weaken. I felt myself rising above it. I continued praying, and then the scratching stopped. The next morning, Father Patrick told us that I was free. He said the darkness was gone. That was 5 years ago. Today, Bill and I are closer than anyone could ever imagine. When Bill was born, he was extremely sensitive. He cried all the time, and when his nurse came into his room, she said, "Oh, look at this one. He's a little psychic. He knows I'm ugly." Bill must have seen something in her soul because he stopped crying when Father Patrick came in. I guess it's because he knows I'm free. I can sense it from him. Our souls recognize each other. We are connected in a way that siblings aren't usually connected. Bill is my hero. He's the reason I'm here today. I'll never forget what he did for me. He gave me my life, and I promise to spend my entire life loving him for that.